what I found is one of the ways that abusers or people who engage in that type of activity, they always want to make sure that their victim stays as close as possible to them and doesn't venture away and find the truth and
Right.
discover them. Because a lot of times these are people that aren't very confident themselves, or they may be going through something themselves, which puts them in a situation, not minimizing what you went through, but put them in a situation to try to have control over
Right.
you, right? And you're the type of person, from what I'm hearing now, is that after a while you began to doubt the stories because one, they're changing into, they're becoming more and more unrealistic. Was that
Right.
the point where you started to think to yourself that I know sooner than later I am going to have to figure out something for myself and take a step away from this because you're going through mental, physical, and emotional trauma?
Yeah, it was confusing at first because I started like I use the internet for a lot of research, right? So that was kind of like my standing point was let's go and do a bit of research, find out what we know, and then I would go and ask around like whatever friends he had. Are you aware of when John was this and that and this and that? And they were like, oh, we didn't know about that. And we were friends for life. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. He would be friends with you for like all his life, but he would never say anything. And like, I even approached his brother. His name's Maurice. He's like in a band with, I don't know if you've heard of them, Dogs D'Amour. And he's married to Cher Pedersen from Vixen, and they live in Florida. But it's like I would ask him about things like this, and he would kind of like he wouldn't really he didn't like touching on the topic, but it was like he had his own. He knew that his brother had issues. Like he was, oh, I don't know what the word is. Well, okay, so he broke his neck in '86. He got pushed in the shallow end of a pool, and he broke his neck in two places. So following that, he ended up with a halo on like those ones that you bolt onto your head. So you have like two bolts here, two here. And the way they did it was they had him strapped into a chair, no anesthetic, and they drilled four bolts into his head. And I was like, well, how the heck do you walk away from that saying you're okay? And having to go through that twice. So I was like, okay, well, this is kind of making a little sense. He's a little like loony up there. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe we should like go and see if we can approach him about any mental illnesses. So I'd go and talk to his mom, and she would instantly like just threw it down. Was like, I didn't get him any help because there's nothing wrong with him, and mental health you don't need counseling for stuff like that because it doesn't work. I was like, oh no. I'm like, okay, well, this answers a lot. So I was like, okay, so your son has brain damage and you were a nurse, but you failed to get your son help. And she's like, there's nothing wrong with him. He's fine. And I was like, no, there's a lot of things wrong with him and he needs help. Like, so he ended up telling me months later that he came in from work, and I remember I was outside having a smoke, and he came in through the front, came in out the back, grabbed the chair, pulled it up in front of me and sat down and was like, I have PTSD. And I was just like, okay, hi. And he was like, I've held this from you for years because I was afraid. And I was like, I'm not the kind of person to judge, but if it means like you were honest with me at the beginning, we could have worked through this together. And I wasn't one to judge. I never am. Like I don't like judging people unless they're being unfair. But I was raised in an environment where you respect everybody around you and you receive it back. So I was like, why wouldn't you be honest with me? And he couldn't come up with an answer. It was just like he was ashamed, or he would say he was too proud. And I was just like, like I have my issues, but I'm not ashamed of them.